Admiral Krell Vonder straightened his ceremonial collar and flicked an annoying speck of dust from his immaculate uniform. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with excitement, a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and translated murmurs filling the vast dome. As the senior military representative of the Zentari Dominion, he maintained a dignified pose, though secretly he was bored out of his mind. "Can we please move on to item 16 on the agenda?" he asked, not bothering to hide his impatience. "Some of us have actual wars to manage." Speaker Lazic Prol, with his ridiculous three-tiered hat that supposedly signified wisdom but really just made him look like a walking lampshade, tapped his gavel. Item 16, Assessment and Determination of Status for Solar System 3381b, locally known as Earth. A holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber, showing a small blue-green planet. "Oh look, another primitive mud ball," muttered a Hoxian delegate nearby. "How thrilling." The chief resource assessor, a bulbous creature named Gorvan Plath, floated forward. "Esteemed delegates, Earth presents an interesting opportunity. While technologically backward, having achieved only rudimentary space travel, it possesses abundant water, diverse biological organisms, and extensive mineral deposits. Its position also offers strategic advantages for whoever controls the sector." Vonder yawned. He'd heard this same pitch 100 times for 100 worlds. The natives, calling themselves humans, have managed to construct precisely one military vessel capable of interstellar travel, continued Plath, highlighting a small ship on the display. "They call it the ESS Defiant." "How ambitious of them." This triggered a wave of laughter throughout the chamber. "One ship? One?" Speaker Prol's face tendrils wiggled with amusement. "Why are we even discussing this? Standard enslavement protocol seems appropriate." "I second the motion," called out a delegate Vonder couldn't be bothered to identify. Intelligence Officer Mayera Lux, a slender Neridian with unervingly perceptive eyes, raised a delicate hand. "If I may, Speaker. Our intelligence on human capabilities seems incomplete. Perhaps additional surveillance would be prudent before." Officer Lux interrupted Prol with a condescending smile, always so cautious. "What could one primitive vessel possibly do against even our smallest fleet? I propose we send 12 ships. And honestly, that's being generous." 12 ships is overkill," someone shouted. "We could probably manage with 3. More laughter rippled through the chamber. Vonder glanced at Lux, noting her troubled expression. "You're overthinking this, Lux," he said quietly. "They're barely worth the effort. We'll subdue them, extract their resources, and be done with it." "All in favor of declaring Earth a Class 3 primitive world subject to immediate resource appropriation and population control," called Speaker Prol. 137 voting appendages raised in unison. "Motion carries unanimously," Prol declared, sounding bored. "Admiral Vonder, please dispatch the necessary forces. Nothing too fancy, these humans won't know what hit them." As the council moved to item 17, Vonder made a note to assign this trivial conquest to Captain Brax Tormac. The young officer had been requesting combat experience, and this seemed like the perfect milk run for a novice commander. After all, how much trouble could one human ship possibly cause? #only one ship. #Part 2, First contact gone wrong. Captain Brax Tormac stood proudly on the command deck of the Zentari warship Inevitable Conquest, watching as Earth grew larger on the main view screen. His fleet of 12 vessels, frankly, 9 more than he thought necessary, had just emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. This would be the easiest conquest of his career, and he'd made sure to record everything for his eventual promotion ceremony. "We've achieved stable orbit, Captain," reported his navigation officer. "The primitive vessel is located on the dark side of their moon. They appear to be just sitting there." Tormac straightened his uniform. "Open a communication channel. Standard Conquest Protocol, Paragraph 1. The communications officer nodded. "Channel open, sir." Tormak cleared his throat dramatically. "Attention, vessel of Earth. This is Captain Brax Tormak of the Galactic Alliance Fleet. Your planet has been designated for resource extraction and population control. Submit immediately or be destroyed. You have 5 minutes to respond." He turned to his executive officer with a smirk. "Start the countdown, Vex. And prepare the celebratory refreshments. I want to be drinking victory nectar before lunch." 5 minutes passed in confident silence. Then 10. "Sir," the communications officer frowned, "we're receiving a response. Audio only." "Put it through," Tormak said, gesturing grandly for his crew to listen to what would surely be terrified pleading. A distinctly human voice, sounding surprisingly relaxed, filled the bridge. "Nah, we're good. Thanks for asking though." There was a moment of stunned silence before the bridge erupted in laughter. Did they just refuse?" Tormak's executive officer wiped tears of amusement from his eyes. "The audacity." Tormak chuckled. "Adorable. Fire warning shots. Disable their pathetic vessel." The weapons officer targeted the lone human ship and fired. But the energy beams passed harmlessly through it. "Sir. That's a hologram." Suddenly, alarms blared across all 12 ships. The real ESS Defiant appeared directly behind Tormak's fleet, seeming to materialize from nowhere. "Impossible." Tormak gasped. "Scan that vessel immediately." Before the scan could complete, a series of blindingly fast projectiles launched from the human ship. They bypassed shields as if they weren't there, striking 3 Zentari vessels with surgical precision. All 3 ships exploded simultaneously. "They have shield-penetrating weapons," screamed the tactical officer. "Our defenses are useless." Tormak stared in horror as the supposedly primitive human ship executed a maneuver that should have torn it apart, banking at an impossible angle and unleashing another barrage. 2 more ships disintegrated. Full retreat. "All ships, emergency hyperspace jump," Tormak ordered, his voice cracking with panic. As the remaining vessels scrambled to escape, the human ship picked them off one by one. The inevitable conquest shuddered as debris from another destroyed vessel slammed into their hull. "Sir. We're receiving a transmission from the human vessel." A woman's face appeared on screen, dark hair pulled back, expression calm but determined. "This is Captain Eleanor Blackwood of the Earth spaceship Defiant. You came to the wrong neighborhood, friends." As hyperspace engines finally engaged, Tormak frantically recorded an emergency transmission to the Council. "This is Captain Tormak. Earth defenses vastly underestimated. 7 ships destroyed. Do not send reinforcements without." He looked back at the view screen where another Zentari ship exploded. "Without everything you've got." The inevitable conquest lurched into hyperspace, leaving behind a graveyard of ships and every shred of Tormak's dignity. #only one ship? Part 3, The Galactic Panic. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council had descended into absolute chaos. Gone was the orderly procedure and smug superiority of just days earlier. Now, delegates shouted over each other while Speaker Lazik Prol repeatedly banged his gavel to no effect. "How were we supposed to know they had phase-shifting technology?" screamed a Hoxian representative. "You said one ship," bellowed another delegate, pointing accusingly at the resource assessor, who had shrunk to half his normal size in shame. Admiral Krellvander stood at the central podium, outwardly projecting confidence while inwardly calculating how quickly he could reach his personal escape vessel if necessary. "Silence," he roared, finally cutting through the pandemonium. "This shameful display won't solve our problem. Captain Tormak's surviving vessel has transmitted complete data on the encounter." The chamber quieted, eager for information. Vonder gestured, and a holographic display activated, showing dozens of ships emerging from hidden bases on Earth's moon, Mars, and several asteroids. Intelligence now indicates the humans have been concealing their true capabilities. The ESS Defiant was merely their test pilot, shall we say. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Intelligence Officer Mayera Lux stepped forward. There's more. We've discovered humans have been monitoring our communications for at least 3 decades. They're familiar with our languages, protocols, and, she hesitated, weaknesses. The silence that followed was deafening. We sent a diplomatic envoy to negotiate terms, continued Vonder, his voice tight. They returned missing certain anatomical features. He held up a container. Inside was a severed communications antenna from a Zentari diplomat. The human sent a message, Lux said, activating an audio recording. You voted to enslave us, came Captain Blackwood's calm voice. We vote to teach you manners. As if summoned by the recording, emergency alerts began flooding in from across the galaxy. Human vessels have appeared in the Proxima system. Military outpost in Sector 7 completely destroyed. They've disabled the defense grid around Zentari Prime without firing a shot. Delegates scattered in panic, some literally climbing over others to reach communication terminals. Lux approached Vonder privately. My analysis suggests the humans were testing us. The ESS Defiant was deliberate bait. They wanted to see our intentions. And we failed spectacularly, muttered Vonder. There's a pattern to their attacks, Lux continued, displaying a galactic map. Notice, only military installations. No civilian targets. Not one. More reports arrived, precision strikes against weapons facilities, shipyards, command centers, all with minimal casualties. They're not trying to exterminate us, realized Vonder. They're disarming us. Sir, said a junior officer, rushing up with wide eyes, we've analyzed their weapons technology. It's beyond anything in our databases. And based on the metallurgical composition of their hulls, they've had this technology for centuries. Vonder's blood ran cold. Are you telling me they could have annihilated us at any time? Yes, sir. They've been hiding, watching, waiting. For what? Lux looked up from her data pad, expression grim. For someone to give them a reason. Only one ship? Part 4, the new arrangement 1 year later, the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council looked markedly different. Gone were the grandiose decorations celebrating conquests. The ornate, species hierarchy chart had been discreetly removed. And most notably, a new delegation occupied the prime position near the speaker's podium. Admiral Krell Vonder approached the central platform, walking side by side with Captain Eleanor Blackwood. He couldn't help but notice how delegates practically flattened themselves against walls to clear a path for the human. Captain Blackwood, may I get you refreshments? Perhaps some nutrient supplements? The gravity in this chamber can be adjusted if Earth standard is more comfortable, fussed Speaker Lazik Prol, his once imposing 3-tiered hat now looking pathetically small after a recent downsizing of regalia. I'm fine, Speaker Prol, Blackwood replied with a pleasant smile that nonetheless made the speaker flinch. Vonder called the session to order. Esteemed delegates, today we finalize the Treaty of Seoul, recognizing Earth as a sovereign power and full council member. Before the signing, Captain Blackwood has a few words. The chamber fell into a silence so complete you could hear the anxious breath equivalents of 100 different species. Blackwood surveyed the room, her calm demeanor somehow more intimidating than any show of force. Last year, you unanimously voted to enslave my people. You sent 12 ships to subjugate a planet of billions. Your arrogance was educational. Several delegates seemed to be trying to melt into their seats. You should know that Earth has maintained the capability to destroy every major system in this alliance for the past century, Blackwood continued conversationally, as if discussing the weather. We've had faster-than-light travel for over 200 years. But we wanted to understand the galaxy before joining it. A Hoxian delegate fainted with a soft thud. Here's what we learned: your galactic alliance is built on predation. The strong consuming the weak. That ends today. She smiled. We don't want subjects. We want neighbors. Mayera Lux, now wearing the dual insignia of both Centauri Intelligence and Earth Diplomatic Corps, stepped forward with the treaty. The provisions are simple: mutual respect, fair trade, and absolute prohibition of slavery and forced resource extraction. As Prull shakily signed the document, he attempted a weak joke. At least now we'll have the famous Earth warships on our side, yes? Blackwood chuckled. About that. The ESS Defiant? That's actually our training vessel. Our cadets learn on it before graduating to actual warships. The silence returned, heavier than before. Speaking of which, continued Blackwood cheerfully, we've updated the Council Charter with a new first rule. Admiral Vonder, would you like to read it? Vonder turned to the assembled delegates, his face perfectly serious. Council Charter, Rule 1, never mess with a species that names their training ship Defiant. The treaty was ratified in record time. Later, as delegates filed out, Vonder found himself alone with Lux. You know, he said quietly, watching Blackwood chatting amicably with representatives who once voted to enslave her kind, I used to think the galaxy was becoming dull and predictable. Lux smiled. And now? Now, Vonder said with a mixture of terror and exhilaration, I think things just got infinitely more interesting. And infinitely more terrifying. As if hearing him, Blackwood glanced over and winked. Vonder had never been more certain of anything in his life.